the debt levels of young Canadians, and we're going to break down like why the government, why it's so bad for them, which but we're probably going to break down like what people don't understand is like why the government's actually okay with it. It's not that they don't understand it. That's the false misconception is people think they don't understand how bad it is. Like, no, they get it, but it's working for them. And I'll show you the math behind why it's working for them and why this is the plan. It is working as intended. Okay. So, let's break down this Equifax report here. And so this is going to break down delinquency rates. So debt and delinquency rates, excluding mortgages, Okay. And this is where you start to see some really, really concerning numbers. Okay. So you look at overall in Canada that the delinquency rate right now is at 1.6%. Okay. So, if you're, looking at 200 people, 3 people can't pay their credit cards right now. So that's kind of what you're looking at right now in Canada. But it starts to become, and that's accelerating. It's accelerating across the board, okay? But it's not accelerating evenly across demographics. Okay, so that rate is up 14%. Okay, wow. So the number of Canadians who are not paying their non-mortgage debt, they're delinquent on their non-mortgage debt. But look at these brackets. Okay, these brackets the age brackets are reflecting what we can see on the ground, and probably what the viewers have seen too. Okay, that the delinquency rate for those 18 to 25 and those from 26 to 35, and really for the most part from 36 to 45, they're all over the national average. And accelerating at a faster rate than all of the other demographic groups. Okay, so you have 2.2% for 18 to 25, 2.3% for 26 to 35, 1.9% for 36 to 45, all over the average of 1.6%. Okay. And then you get the rate of increase, 18%, 20%, 17% for those three age brackets. So they're all accelerating quicker than the average too. Wow. Okay. That's a very concerning fact. Okay. That is a very concerning fact. So when people say that it's hard in Canada, it's like, okay, hard is a relative term. But is it harder for seniors in Canada than young people? No, statistically, it's just not. Like it's not harder for seniors than young people at this juncture in history.
Well, let's talk about like what are some of the ramifications of this. Okay, so they're in debt. This could be their student loans, can be credit cards, can be lines of credit, car loans, all that stuff that they have. Like, what is the fallout of these people getting into debt, being in debt, and not being able to pay that off?
I mean, I would say crime. Like that's probably the most concerning and the most immediate. But you'd see elevated crime rates. So when you see break-and enters, robberies, that sort of thing, it's like A does lead to B. Unfortunately, it shouldn't, but that's just the reality of the world. Is that does lead to that. It leads to probably depression and health outcomes, and probably almost certainly reduction in childbirths. Yeah, because people don't have kids when they're broke.
Yeah, and suicide rates and mental health issues and drug addiction and substance abuse things.
Yes,
because they don't have.
Yes, all under the umbrella of health those do go up, right?
And the disturbing part that you pointed out was Canada's okay with that.
I'll show you. I'll show the viewers why they're okay with it, because they think that the system is broken. So no, the system is actually working as intended. And when I show you the math on it, it's kind of undeniable, right? The sacrificial lambs, if you were, are the people in these age brackets.
Which the opposite should be true. We should be trying to bolster up our young people and make sure that our young people have a future and have some hope for the future.
Yeah.
Right.
And I pulled this from the StatsCan website. And so this is employment from the age group of 15 to 24 and bouncing off the lows of December 23. Okay. So December 23 is kind of, the COVID money is expiring. You know, the last shopping spree in Christmas of 23 where people had COVID money and increased level of savings. You had an unemployment rate, a youth unemployment rate, 15 to 24 of 19.7%. Okay. Fast forward to today, and now that youth unemployment rate is, you know, pretty much, let's call it 15%.
Right.
Okay. So we're going from 10% to 15%, a 50% increase in unemployment. And so when you tie that back to those debt numbers, it's like, of course they cannot pay their consumer debt.
Because
They don't have a job,
Yeah.
right? And I always, take issue with unemployment, because unemployment is it's a difficult number. First of all, every number you get from the government is essentially an estimate. They're not counting individual people and asking all
there isn't a survey
all 40
that
million
goes out,
people
yeah.
of exactly what's happening. That's not how this works. So it's an estimate, right? But unemployment is an estimate of an estimate, because you're essentially trying to estimate how many people are actually looking for work, and of those, how many actually have work, right?
Yeah. So in reality, these numbers are probably much higher.
Probably, because because they're estimating how many people are looking for work, but how many people have actually just checked out of the job market because they think it's hopeless, right?
Yeah.
I would suggest higher, but even if you just take it at face value, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's it's up 50% in that time period, and that's not for everyone altogether. Okay, so unemployment is not at 15% for the country. Unemployment for the country is hovering around 7%. Okay,
Right.
so what's driving the unemployment is youth unemployment. Okay, does it have to do with immigration? Likely, likely. And that's the rub. It's like, why would they do it? And so I want to tie this next part in for people, because here's the part where people are like, well, this is so clearly broken. Why would they not fix it? That's the people, I can just hear them. It's just like, they're just confused. They've gone beyond upset and into the point of confusion of, if it's so bad, why do they continue to do it? Okay. And so this isn't my feelings that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the national balance sheet accounts from Stats Canada. Okay. And we are going to look at household net worth. Okay. Household net worth from the same period, Q4 2023 until Q2 of 2025, which is the most recent data available.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. And so you look at household net worth, we've actually increased in that period of time where we've thrown Canada's youth under the bus. We've increased household net worth from 16.3 trillion to $17.9 trillion. Okay.
That's a big jump.
It's a big jump. And so is the net worth of those, in the 15 to 24 and 24 to 35 bracket going up? No, not a chance. It's not going up. But is the net worth of the older age brackets going up? 100% it's going up, right? And particularly those who are already wealthy. They're already wealthy, okay? And so that's not the system not working. So that's what people think, that the system is actually broken. No, it's actually working as designed. It's just accelerating at a quicker and quicker rate. Okay. And so why, who goes out to vote? It's like older Canadians go out to vote, predominantly. And the circumstances, like, I'm not saying it's not hard for a senior. I'm just saying on an aggregate basis, it's harder for young people today than a senior. That's just what it is. Okay. Yeah. And mathematically, that's true. They can't pay their debts. They can't get a job. They have a far lower percentage of net worth. And I hear people that they're totally disconnected, where they'll just be saying, I was like, well, the pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of crowd, right? You had the, where they.
How do you do that when there's no boots?
Yeah, there's no boots. It's like, just look at the value of a house and compare it to median income. Okay, where the people who could have bought a house with 6 years of median income are telling people who need to have 16 years of median income to pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah.
Right. They're trying to tell people, it's like, well, back in my day, the interest rates were 3 times higher, but they forget to mention that the debt rate is 3 times bigger today, right?
Your house brand new costs $50,000.
That's right. As a percentage of your income, even with the accelerated interest rate, it was mathematically not as difficult. Like that, it's just a full stop. Like it's just a failure to understand all of the variables in that. When you compare the value of the house to their income rate to the interest rate, and if you compare all 3 of those variables, it is harder today than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
That's right.
And increasing in pace largely. So, I mean, wages today in Canada, they're flat. They've been flat for a whole year. I mean, like completely flatlined at a median.
Well, we've seen
income.
it lots of times on your Instagram feed. You
$30 an hour.
You put the chart out every month.
$30 an hour, like it completely flatlined. And you know, what would that? What's that number of the median income if you take government employees out of it, right? Right. And then compare it to what it would actually cost to buy somewhat of semblance of acceptable housing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you make a good point. Like, there's, I believe it's a third of the workforce works for the government.
Yeah,
like a third, and they get paid generally higher than your private sector job,
and increasing.
That's right,
increasing, right? So, you start to look at these, like the household net worth, like, man, you start to see some of these numbers, and man, is it like really telling in Canada. It's like you start to look at how much real estate is the net worth of the country, right? It's kind of obscured. You have to kind of look through here where they have dwellings on one side, and so dwellings on one side that are, let's call it $4 trillion of dwellings. Okay. $4 trillion of dwellings. But really, they put it under, land here. When you keep going down, you'll find that land underlying the dwellings is another 4 trillion, right?
Yeah.
So 8 trillion. Proportionally speaking, it's really interesting when you start to see it's machinery and equipment is only 36 billion.
That's incredible.
And it's like, I've been talking about this for years. It's like the amount of, capital expenditures in Canada compared to other countries. And you get these pundits on TV and they're saying like, I don't understand the lack of productivity. If we could solve that, it's like, you can't borrow money to buy equipment in this country as a business. Like you can't, like no. It's incredibly hard.
They make
it
extremely hard. Like for me, trying to get mortgages for business owners, they make it extremely difficult under high levels of scrutiny.
Yes.
When for the same people, okay, so the same business owners who have employees, their employees can get qualified for a mortgage.
Same business,
yeah. Yeah, it's insane, right?
No problem, yeah. And, they're talking about making it harder, right? They're talking about making it harder. It's like, we should use the CRA. It's like, wait a minute here. Do you know what's going to happen even more to those business owners if you start putting these rudimentary, crude debt tests?
Yeah.
It's like...
basically, it'll look like they're not making any income and they'll never qualify for a house. Like, it's crazy because, let's say, for example, that a business owner gets a T4 of $3,500 a year, right? And then the rest is all dividends, which they don't use for qualifying.
Yeah.
So you'd never qualify.
I mean, we had that one. I sent you that tweet a while ago. Prominent mortgage broker in Canada. We won't name him today. Maybe we'll name him. But I'm pretty sure you guys watching on YouTube have probably heard it, right? He's railing on some small business guy because he helped an HVAC guy increase the ticket price from $300 per call to $1,200 per call, right? And he's like, he shows him, you just showed him how to F the customer. F the customer. It's like $300 per call is a one-way ticket to bankruptcy for an HVAC company.
Absolutely.
One-way ticket to bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
How much did the toilet itself cost that you put in on that call, right? Like you are going bankrupt 100% of the time. And this guy is a guy that, the CBC pulls on and, the government would rely on to invent these, mortgage qualification characters. Right. And he's that brain dead when it comes to like business operations. Like he actually thought that was okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Like we both advise businesses. We both are trying, like that's our aim in life is to really help businesses build wealth, stay in business, become better operators, have better hold of their finances. That is just a simple thing that will keep
Yeah.
that plumber from
Yeah.
going bankrupt.
Yeah, and I asked them, it's like, okay, what's the average ticket price on a mortgage renewal for an industry that has no material costs? Of course, he didn't respond to that, right? Because it was just, but that's how kind of, and you start to see it's like, where's all the debt? Like, where's all the debt in this country? I can go down here and try to find the mortgages. But pretty much all of the debt in the country.
Mortgage is right there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really just on residential real estate.
Yeah.
Like it's just on residential real estate because that's all the banks are financially motivated to do. It's on residential real estate, right? There's going to come a reckoning too. We start to look at some of the other assets. It's like, I'm telling people they're going to come for that equity in your house. We've done other podcasts on this. It's like they're going to come for that equity in your house, okay? And the other pot that they're going to come from is they're going to come for the equity in pension plans. They're going to come for the equity in pension plans. They're going to come for that asset value, and they're going to do it through inflation.
Yeah. And like this is just, my observation. The reason that they're going to be coming after that is because we're not a producing country. We're not producing enough in order to, have more tax revenue, to have more things so the government can, fully function and provide services. So we have so much oil, gas, gold, uranium, like trees. We got so much in this country that is not being utilized, not being sold. And so there's no investment in this country, which means there's no capital investment. There's no jobs for people. And we're not even getting housing starts are not great in most provinces in Canada. So if we're not making more, it's just going to be less for everybody. As our population grows, basically that pie is not getting a lot larger, which it should be.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous for this country.
So, I mean, what do you have to do when you see this? First, you just have to recognize the trajectory here, that you have two opposing groups and one the system is actually working for, okay? And you have another group that's actually a declining portion of the population and it's not working for. So you have to, rather than hope that the system changes, you have to find, how do you actually work within this system, okay? That these financial assets and desirable real estate will, continue to appreciate. Okay, be careful with desirable real estate because eventually there's going to be a tax reckoning on that asset class. Okay, and that's I would not want to have all of my wealth tied up in one expensive single family house. I think that's just an incredibly risky position in this climate. That does not sound like a it's funny. People are like, oh, you have a Bitcoin position. It's like, what's really risky is having, $3 million of wealth tied up in one paid off house and hoping that the government's not going to take half of that in the next 20 years. Right. Right. That's not, that's a pretty one-dimensional plan. And I don't think that's it.
It used to work. It used to work.
But you start looking at the math, like, where's it going to come from? Where is that tax revenue going to come from? How much you're going to tax the youth who aren't working? Okay. Eventually, they're going to come looking for the boomers who are okay with this. Yeah. They're going to come looking for it. And where's that wealth tied up? It's like that wealth is tied up in houses. Okay. That wealth is tied up in pensions. And people don't understand, how are they going to get the pensions? They'll give you your pension. Okay. But they'll give you your pension. When you look at what those pensions are deployed into, they have heavy exposure to fixed assets. Okay, so they have heavy exposure to bonds.
Yeah, mortgage-backed securities.
And they have heavy exposure to bonds, and those bonds will get one rate of return, call it 4%, and the government will print 8% new money every year. Okay, so they're going to devalue they're going to pay you that money, but those dollars coming out of those pensions are going to buy less than you anticipated. Okay, that's how they will. They're already doing that, right? But I would suggest that would speed up in the next decade or so. Okay, so you have to understand, if you're in this bracket, you have to learn how to play the game. And that, unfortunately, the reality of Canadians is you're not richer than you think, but you're also not trapped. Okay, it's not like the Scotiabank, you're richer than you think, but you're also not trapped. But you have to understand, it's it's a more dire situation than you think, and you have to take dramatic steps to trying to change that. You know, we go through, like in our boot camp, we go through is like actual budgeting, actual budgeting items that will make a difference, not beans and rice and beans, right? Like, I mean, there's other ones that are even, because you're not going to make this up at the grocery store. Okay. It'll help, it'll help on terms of your shopping habits, but like, where do you live? How do you transport yourself around? It's like, we really got to drive into that. And then once you've done that, it's like, stop this work-life balance nonsense. like you got to work, man. Like, you got to work. Like, who decided one day that 5 days a week was going to work? It's like, that might have worked for the boomers. It might have worked, right? Yeah. But guess what, people? They devalued the dollars that you're earning in your wages. Okay, so if 40 hours of work worked 20 years ago, it doesn't work now because your dollar buys less per hour, right? We help people compare that at bootcamp. We show them the difference between wages and gold, whether it's whether it's minimum wage or medium wage or even top 1% wage. They start to understand it's like your wages get devalued in every category, and that's the nature of this beast. Is it passes the wealth from the wage earners to the asset owners, and particularly those who know how to borrow money to buy the assets efficiently. Okay,
so let's talk about a plan. Let's talk about what can these people in this 18 to basically 45, what can they do in order to not fall into this debt trap, not be stuck, and actually have some hope for the future?
Well, you need to increase your level of knowledge on money and wealth. It is not good enough in 2025 to just say, I'm going to work hard and be good at my craft. Because unfortunately, the people who are okay at their craft but really good at money do better than the people who are great at their craft. That's not how it should be. And it probably, glass half full. It's like, I don't think that's where we'll end up in 20 years, but we're going to get worse before that gets better. Okay. I think we're a decade away from this even coming close to government policies that will change this. And I know this because I can see how people conduct themselves financially. If they truly believed in the solutions, they would conduct their own financial households different than they do now. But I know how countercultural some of the things that we recommend actually is. Like we had someone call yesterday, and he's like, well, I think I'm slowing down on my business. Should I double up on my mortgage payments? And I said, I told the guy, of course the team member brought it to me. He's like, I know the answer, but he just wants to make sure I ask you. It's like, no, double up on your investments. Double up on your investments because we know how to borrow the fake money to buy the real assets, right? We already got you in the right vehicles. Like, you're acquiring the right things. You're doing it in the right tax strategies. Like, don't eviscerate money, taking it out of your corporation and taxes just to pay down a debt where we can, run laps around in terms of, the rate of return that we can earn in other assets, right? So if you are in here, it's like the number one thing that you can do is up level your knowledge, your financial knowledge, okay? You want to get better at your trade or your craft. Yes. Number one, like you need to do that too, but you also need to get better at money and wealth. It's not good enough anymore to say, I don't know anything about that. Learn. Yeah. Learn and hire people that do. I guarantee you Sally down at the RBC who's trying to sell you some 60-40 bullshit doesn't understand money and wealth because she wouldn't buy that. Okay. I hope Sally keeps selling that because I get dividends from RBC, but I'm not buying anything that they're going to sell there. Okay.
That's right.